Long before he was Larry Legend, before the championships, the MVPs, and the no-look passes that felt more like psychic visions, Larry Bird was just a quiet kid from a tiny town with a funny name, French Lick, Indiana. If it sounds like a place where basketball dreams come with a side of fried bologna and cornfields, well, not far off. Larry wasn't flashy. He didn't have a shoe deal waiting for him at age 14. He didn't light up the room with charisma or Hollywood swagger. What he did have was an old basketball, a backboard nailed to a telephone pole, and an unshakable determination that could slice through steel. He'd shoot for hours, sometimes in the freezing cold, just to make one more before heading in for supper. Raised in a working-class family, Larry knew what hardship looked like. His father, Joe Bird, was a Korean War vet who struggled with depression and eventually took his own life when Larry was in high school, a moment that scarred him deeply but also hardened his resolve. Larry didn't talk about pain. He worked through it. Basketball became his language. He was quiet, often reserved, even shy. But when he stepped onto a basketball court, it was like he flipped a switch. The kid who barely said a word would suddenly throw pinpoint passes, snatch rebounds in traffic, and drain shots like he'd been born with a hoop attached to his crib. At Springs Valley High School, Larry averaged over 30 points per game his senior year and became a local legend. Still, no one outside Indiana had really heard of him. No ESPN Top 100, no hype machine, just raw talent wrapped in flannel. He briefly enrolled at Indiana University under the great Bobby Knight, but big campuses and big crowds didn't suit him. After 24 days, Larry packed up, went back to French Lick, and took a job as a garbage collector. And he loved it. It's honest work, simple routines, no spotlight. But basketball wasn't done with him. He gave college another shot, this time at Indiana State University, a much smaller school that didn't expect him to be anyone but himself. And that's where the real legend began. By his sophomore year, Larry had transformed Indiana State from who to holy cow, practically overnight. He wasn't just playing well, he was dominating. Smooth jumpers, laser-guided passes, defensive hustle, all wrapped in a deceptively slow, somewhat awkward-looking package. He looked like he was playing in slow motion, but he was always 2 moves ahead. And then came 1979, the NCAA championship game that would change everything. Indiana State versus Michigan State. Larry Bird versus Magic Johnson. White kid from Indiana versus black kid from Michigan. Small-town stoicism versus Hollywood flair. The build-up was enormous. The game itself, a bit of a letdown. Magic's Spartans won convincingly. But what really started that night was a rivalry that would define the NBA for an entire decade. 2 players, 2 styles, 2 coasts. But we'll get to that in part 2. Back to Larry. Despite the loss, he was named College Player of the Year. NBA teams were salivating. The Boston Celtics, already legendary thanks to names like Bill Russell. And John Havlicek had the rights to draft him, even though he still had a year of eligibility left. Risky, sure, but Larry was worth it. Signed with Boston in 1979, and suddenly the Celtics were cool again. Green and white jerseys flew off shelves. Season ticket sales jumped. Larry Bird, skinny, pale, and deadpan as ever, became the most unlikely superstar in the league. His rookie year, 21 points, 10 rebounds, 4.5 assists per game. Celtics went from 29 wins to 61. He won Rookie of the Year, over, you guessed it, Magic Johnson. And the league was never the same. Larry didn't dunk often. He didn't smile for the cameras. But he played like every possession meant something, because to him it did. Every loose ball, every fast break, every chest pass, it was all personal. And he talked trash. Oh boy, did he talk trash. But not like you'd expect. He'd tell you exactly what he was going to do, then do it in your face. Calmly. Like a farmer warning you that the corn's about to grow 6 feet tall, then making it happen. The 80s were about to explode. Showtime in LA with Magic. Grit and grind in Boston with Bird. The NBA had its heroes, its villains, and its perfect storm of competition. And standing tall in the middle of it all, kid from French Lick, with a jump shot you'd swear was guided by GPS. By the time Larry Bird stepped onto the Boston Garden floor in 1979, something had shifted in the air. Maybe it was the ghost of Red Auerbach lighting a victory cigar in the rafters. Maybe it was just the sound of Celtics fans cautiously daring to believe again. Whatever it was, it smelled a lot like a comeback hand. Bird was the reason. He didn't look like your typical NBA superstar. Gangly arms. That farmer's tan. Hair like it hadn't been introduced to conditioner since '76, but man, once the ball was tipped he became pure poetry. Elbows flying, sweat pouring, mouth running. Larry wasn't just playing the game. He was teaching it, punishing with precision, and making you regret every decision you made within 5 feet of him. Boston loved him instantly. He was their kind of gyno nonsense. No flash, all heart. He'd dive into the scorer's table, throw passes behind his back without blinking, and pull up from 30 feet just to prove a point. And let's talk about that point. Bird didn't just want to beat you, he wanted to break you, quietly, efficiently, like a man fixing a fence before breakfast. The Celtics wasted no time building around him. They added Kevin McHale, the soft-spoken Minnesotan, with impossible post moves, and Robert Parrish, the chief, who ran the floor like a silent locomotive. Together, they became the Big 3B, for that phrase was ever trendy. Meanwhile, on the other side of the country, 6'9" wizard named Magic Johnson was doing something equally electrifying in LA. You know where this is going. Bird and Magic became basketball's greatest rivalry and probably the best thing that ever happened to the NBA. One was flash and Hollywood. The other was grit and Indiana. One smiled on the court, the other scowled. But here's the twist. They respected each other deeply. They brought out the best in each other. Their teams met in the NBA Finals 3 times in the 1980s. The matchups were electric. Bird versus Magic, Celtics versus Lakers, East versus West. It felt less like a basketball game and more like America flipping a coin. In 1984, Bird got the better of Magic. Celtics in 7. It was brutal, physical, and beautiful Aries kind of series. In post-game interviews, he didn't gloat, he just shrugged like, "What? You thought I flew out here to lose?" But Magic struck back in '85 and again in '87, and that ate at Larry. Deep down, he hated losing almost more than he loved winning. That's what made him great. He played every game like he was proving something to himself, to his doubters, to that kid in French Lick still shooting in the dark. And let's not forget his other rivalries. Oh, he had Miz at Thomas, Dr. J. Bill Laimbeer, the entire city of Philadelphia. Bird didn't need enemies to perform, but he definitely didn't mind having them. Off the court, Larry was. Well, Larry, he wasn't hosting parties or chasing the spotlight. He preferred fishing, mowing his lawn, maybe playing cards with guys who didn't care how many MVPs he had. He was a superstar who lived like he still paid for cable and quarters. Speaking of MVPs, he won 3 in a row from 1984 to 1986. That's something only a handful of players have ever done. And in those years, he wasn't just dominating, he was redefining what a forward could be. Passing like a point guard, shooting like a 2 guard, rebounding like a center, and trash-talking like a man possessed. There's the famous story. Larry walked into the locker room before the 1988 three-point contest, looked around and said, "Which one of you is coming in second?" Then he went out, hit the game winner with his finger in the air before the ball even dropped. That was Larry. But greatness has a price, and Bird paid it in full. By the late 80s, his body began to betray him. Back problems, bone spurs. He'd lie on the floor during timeouts to ease the pain, then get up and still drop 30 on you. He refused to quit. He played through agony, because to him, that's what you did. In 1992, after 13 seasons, 3 championships, and countless unforgettable moments, Larry Bird retired. The league lost one of its sharpest minds, its fiercest competitors, and maybe its last true blue-collar superstar. But he wasn't done with basketball, not by a long shot. When Larry Bird finally hung up his high tops in 1992, the NBA didn't just lose a legend, it lost a certain kind of truth. Bird wasn't loud, he wasn't flashy. He didn't care about headlines, endorsements, or how many cameras were pointed his way. He just wanted to win. When the winning was done, he wanted to go home, mow the lawn, and maybe catch a ball game on TV. But even in retirement, the man couldn't sit still for long. That same year, despite his creaky back and a body held together by sheer willpower, Larry suited up one last time, not in Celtics green, but in red, white, and blue. He joined the 1992 Olympic Dream Team, a collection of basketball's absolute elite: Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, and more. It was the first time NBA players could compete in the Olympics, and it was a spectacle. Larry didn't play many minutes. His body wasn't what it once was, but his presence was everything. He was the elder statesman, the sharpshooter who'd already proved everything and came just to enjoy the ride and maybe bury a few threes along the way. And of course, the U.S. brought home the gold. After that, he disappeared back into the Indiana countryside for a while. But you don't keep a basketball mind like Larry's on the bench forever. In 1997, he returned, this time as head coach of the Indiana Pacers. Fans were surprised. Larry had never coached a team at any level, but that didn't stop him. He brought the same grit, attention to detail, and dry wit that made him a menace on the court. He pushed his players, but never for show. He coached the way he played, direct, honest, and with one goal: win. In his very first season as a head coach, he led the Pacers to a 58-24 record and was named NBA Coach of the Year. No big deal, just another trophy to stack between the MVPs and the gold medal. Coached for 3 seasons, leading Indiana to the NBA Finals in 2000. They fell short to the Chicago Lakers, but Bird had made his point. Greatness doesn't clock out. Later, he moved into the Pacers front office, serving as team president. And just like before, he brought success without needing the spotlight. Under his leadership, the Pacers remained a playoff-caliber team, known for their toughness, discipline, and old-school approach. He eventually stepped down, not with a press tour or a documentary crew, but with a quiet handshake and a job well done. Larry Bird didn't care about legacy. He cared about doing it right and walking away when it felt finished. And yet his legacy has only grown. Today, Larry lives in Indiana, mostly out of the public eye. No wild talk shows, no podcast circuit. It's just Larry. Maybe at the hardware store. Maybe at a high school game. Probably still deadpanning jokes nobody sees coming. But for those who normally know basketball, Larry Bird is more than a champion. He's a symbol. A symbol of everything pure about the game. Of hustle over hype. Of brains over bravado. Of playing hurt, passing first, and talking trash only when you could back it up immediately. He didn't just influence a generation, he educated them. Every tall, smart, unassuming kid who didn't fit the mold saw Larry and thought, maybe I belong too. And he did it all with that same understated swagger. Remember the time he told a rookie defender, I'm going to get the ball right here, shoot it in your face, and then go back to the bench. And then he did it. That was Larry's straight-faced confidence. No drama, just buckets. Even Magic Johnson once said, Larry Bird is the only player I feared. Coming from Magic, that's the kind of quote you etch into stone. Bird's impact is woven into the very fabric of the NBA. The Celtics tradition. The league's rise in the 80s. The international explosion that followed the Dream Team. The slow-motion passes that turn into highlights. It's all him. And yet if you met him at a diner in Indiana and asked about it, he'd probably just shrugged and say, I was just trying to win, man. Because that's the thing about Larry Bird. He didn't chase greatness. Greatness chased him, and he still didn't look impressed. Thanks for watching this journey through the life of Larry Bird. If this story made you smile, remember greatness doesn't have to be loud, it just has to be real. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and tap the notification bell for more incredible stories about the legends who shaped the game we love. Hey, leave a comment. Who should we cover next? Yeah, your favorite basketball hero might be our next deep dive. Until then, stay humble, stay hungry, and maybe shoot a few jumpers in the driveway, just like Larry would have done.